Far off the west coast of Scotland, surrounded by the rough Atlantic, lies the lonely Flannan Isle. In December of 1899, the massive lighthouse on this island was a beacon of hope for sailors navigating the treacherous waters. But on December 26, a passing ship named the Arctur saw something terrifying. The lighthouse, that vital symbol of safety, was completely dark. Why would such an important structure fall silent? What could possibly extinguish its powerful light? An investigation was launched, but the answers it sought would only lead to one of the coldest, most enduring unsolved mysteries in the world. 3 experienced keepers were on duty at the Flannan Isle Lighthouse. Principal keeper, James Duquette, second assistant, Thomas Marshall, and assistant, Donald MacArthur. These weren't rookies. They were all reliable men who knew the ins and outs of lighthouse work. The last entry they made in the official logbook was dated December 17th. Principal keeper, Duquette wrote, "Storm coming. God is merciful." This message is incredibly brief, yet deeply mysterious. If the storm had truly passed, why did the lighthouse go dark just a few days later? What happened during those silent days? And how could 3 experienced men simply vanish without a trace? When news of the dark lighthouse finally reached the mainland, Inspector Joseph Moorhead was dispatched to Flannan Isle, arriving on December 26 aboard the ship Hesperus. Moorhead was an experienced lighthouse man himself, and as he approached the island, he immediately felt that something was wrong. The keepers usually met incoming boats at the jetty, a standard welcome. But today, no one was there. The island was eerily quiet, with only the sound of the cold wind and crashing waves to greet him. Moorhead made his way up to the lighthouse and stepped inside. What he saw was both unexpected and unsettling. The place wasn't exactly messy, but it was profoundly abnormal. On the kitchen table, there was a half-eaten meal, cold and abandoned. A chair was overturned, as if someone had jumped up in a hurry, and perhaps most chilling of all, the lighthouse clock had stopped. Even more telling were the clues related to their duties. The oilskins and lanterns, essential for keeping the light burning, hadn't been cleaned or prepped. This was a serious breach of regulation. Everything looked incomplete, frozen in time, as if the keepers had been interrupted mid-task and forced to rush out. But the biggest mystery was discovered in the clothes room. Moorhead found 2 sets of oilskin raincoats and 1 pair of sea boots still hanging up. In the brutal December weather of the North Atlantic, going outside without proper gear was unthinkable. This meant that one of the 3 men, one of the keepers, had ventured out into the bitter cold and stormy conditions without his raincoat. This was the first major clue. An emergency must have been so sudden and so urgent that it forced one man to abandon his post and his protective gear. But what about the other 2? Where were they, and why didn't they go with their colleague? Moorhead continued his search around the exterior of the lighthouse. The western side of the island is the most exposed, taking the full force of the Atlantic's fury. There, he saw that the western landing stage door was unlocked. The door itself showed slight damage, and a nearby railing was bent out of shape. He then noticed that a large supply box, used for hoisting goods up to the lighthouse from the sea, was completely missing from its ironclad housing. All of this pointed to one thing. Something had happened at the lighthouse, something involving immense force. Was it a freak act of nature, or was it something else entirely? Digging into the informal log slate, Moorhead found even more strange entries that only deepened the mystery. The entry for December 14th was particularly startling. It read, "Storm still continuing. Thomas Marshall is crying." Thomas Marshall was a tough, experienced sailor. What could possibly have made him so afraid that he was reduced to tears? Then, just a day later, on December 15th, the entry read, "All quiet. God is merciful." This sudden shift from abject fear to calm relief is baffling. Was this a reference to a natural storm, or was it a sign of some other, unknown terror that had, for a moment, subsided? After a lengthy investigation, the official theory landed on a tragic accident. It was proposed that on that fateful night, a massive, unexpected rogue wave had crashed against the western side of the island. The theory suggested that, against all regulations, the 3 men had gone out together to try and secure the supply box. In that moment, an immense, unforeseen wave swept all 3 of them into the unforgiving sea. However, many investigators and observers were never satisfied with this explanation. They argued that it was highly improbable for 3 seasoned keepers to break regulations and venture out together, especially in dangerous conditions. It just didn't add up. And here's where the story takes a darker turn. A secret, unofficial inquiry allegedly uncovered something else. Rumor has it that on a spoon, left with the half-eaten food, a faint residue of an unknown chemical was found. This sparked a terrifying alternate theory. What if an enemy spy had infiltrated the lighthouse? Someone determined to extinguish the light, who then murdered the 3 keepers and disposed of their bodies in the ocean. In this light, that final log entry, "God is merciful," could be reinterpreted. Was it a genuine expression of relief, or was it a coded distress signal, a final desperate plea for help from men who knew their fate was sealed? Although the incident at Flannan Isle was officially closed and ruled a natural accident, it remains a dark and haunting chapter in Scotland's maritime history. The most crucial questions are still hanging in the air, unanswered after more than a century. Why did those three experienced men disappear? Why was one man's raincoat left behind? And what on earth made a hardened sailor like Thomas Marshall cry? These questions echo through time. The lighthouse on Flannan Isle still stands today, a silent monument to the three men who vanished. It serves as a stark reminder that sometimes nature and perhaps human nature conceals mysteries that science and logic may never be able to solve. Thanks for watching. If you found